Good evening, everybody. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Public comment is welcome, and issues will be referred to the appropriate board committee or administrator. Comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be made available by contacting the business office. You can take a moment and silence any electronic devices. It would be greatly appreciated. Ms. Collins, everybody's present except for Timon, who is excused. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we do have a treat. We were absent for 2 years, maybe, with COVID. But we have Songfest back, and we are going to be entertained by our students in the elementary school.
And I'll tell you, we are glad to be back. I am Leslie Woodward. I'm a music teacher at Lincoln. Songfest is a long-standing tradition with Pennsylvania Music Educators Association District 7, which is comprised of school districts from Adams County, Franklin County, Cumberland County, Dauphin County, York County, Lebanon County, Lancaster County, and I think I got all of them, but I'm not 100% sure. Each year we get to take students to a host school, we learn music on our own, and then we meet for a day where we rehearse all day and have a concert late afternoon. We were supposed to perform this concert at Anvil Clan in 2020, and of course, that did not happen, so we had 2 years without it. I could not find anything that told me which Songfest this is as far as in history, but I know it's been going 22nd year in the district. So it's a long-standing tradition. It's lots of fun for us as directors. The kids learn so much by going and performing, and we thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts for letting us take our students. I know there are districts that over time have slowly dropped out because of lack of support from the district. This year's Songfest, of course, was different. We could not have as many students as we normally do because of having to do the whole COVID protocol situation. But I did check some things out. We had 120 students from 40 different schools that were representing 15 different school districts. So it's still a rather large group. Typically, we can be up to 200 and more students depending on who's hosting. So we're going to let the students introduce themselves so I don't butcher anybody's names by mistake. So if you guys could stand up, and we'll start in the back row with you, Caleb.
Caleb Phillips.
Hang on one second. Tell them what school you're from and your name, please.
From the middle school, my name is Caleb Phillips. I'm from the middle school, my name is Kira Messinger.
I'm from Lincoln Elementary School, and my name is Joey. I'm from Lincoln, and my name is Alexia. I'm from Franklin, and my name is Sandy. I'm from Franklin, and my name is Tara. I'm from Lincoln Elementary School, and my name is Emerson Sutton. I'm from James Gaines Elementary School, and I'm Noah Spence. I'm from James Gettings, and my name is Adrian Lehman.
Can you tell us your name? This is Allison, and she is also from James Gettings. And I think it was a long day, wasn't it, guys? We met at the high school at 6:45 in the morning last Saturday to drive them to Andover High School for rehearsal all day. They were like, wait, we're still rehearsing? Wait, we have another rehearsal? And all day long to put it together. But we had a wonderful, wonderful concert directed by Dr. Kyle Slick from Lebanon Valley College. So each of the directors that are here today are going to take the opportunity to present a song for you. Jamie Bowman from Franklin has other commitments on Mondays and could not join us. The song that I chose for us is, if you're a parent, get ready and find some Kleenex. The song is called Song of the Apple Tree, and it basically tells the story of a tree watching a child that lives there grow up. So moms especially, I still cry after 3 years with this song, and I have grown-up children, so I apologize, but it's a beautiful, beautiful song. Yeah, definitely want you to come a little bit closer for us.
Sterner. I co-directed the course at the middle school with Megan Coolball. And since she has also taken the high school level students, I decided that I would take 6th graders from the middle school. So we've got 4th graders and 5th graders from the elementary schools, and we've got 6th grade at the middle school participating. Then 7th and 8th grade students can participate in county chorus, which is the same thing for the older students. And then at the high school level, of course, we've got districts and regionals and states and levels like that. So the next song is Mother Goose Meets Mozart. Enjoy.
which I find quite ironic as a second-year teacher. It's been such a joy getting to participate in my first Song Fest, but also take my first group of kiddos. It's been so much fun for me, and this has been such a good group to work with, so I hope you enjoy our fun song.
Yes, down
behalf of the school board of directors here, fantastic. Thank you to the parents. We get marred in a lot of business opportunities. This is a special occasion that we've missed for 2 years. Congratulations on all the hard work. You sounded fantastic.
Good job, guys.
And thank you for your continued
You're welcome to stay for the whole meeting. if you
I
want.
think Ms. Woodward and I already come up with a plan. I did not want to subject the students to the business of the district. That would include the parents.
Thank you, parents. Thank you. Out tonight. And on Saturday. Board members, I have to tell you, as we travel to PMA events and through these kinds of activities, not every school district is treated with, their music program is treated with the respect that we are, and we greatly appreciate that from you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's good. So, moving on with tonight's board agenda, under notice of communications, Dr. Parent's indicating he does not have any. I do, however, we had executive session this evening just before our meeting started on a personnel matter, and we will have executive session meeting immediately following this meeting on two separate personnel issues. Just for public clarification. That leads us to citizens' participation. Al?
Thank you, President Hassinger. We have two people that have requested to address the board this evening. First, we'll hear from Christine Miller.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. I'm Christy Miller. I'm the Executive Director at Vita Charter School right here in Gettysburg. And I am compelled to address you this evening in response to the resolution on charter school funding reform that you recently approved. And more specifically, I'm here to respond to the newspaper article, which unfortunately contributed to the spread of false information about charter school funding and accountability. And I am only here to speak on behalf of VITA and no other charter school. On the one hand, I want to stand here before you in defense of VITA, our financial practices and public transparency, and to provide the facts to demonstrate that VITA's CEO, in fact, does not earn a salary that makes Dr. Perrins look minuscule. My first gut reaction is to stand before the public and provide some figures to the contrary, to prove that our salaries and our advertising costs at VITA do not reflect those statements made by you and quoted in the newspaper. But that is actually not the real reason that I'm here. I'm here to appeal to you as public servants, as leaders and the governing body of a public school system. When you make broad statements about charter schools in general with claims that relate to costs, salaries, accountability for student attendance, behavior, and academics, you are speaking to a public who will assume that those broad statements must also apply to VITA. I can imagine that if we said that every decision made by Fairfield or Upper Adams or Philadelphia schools were also those of Gettysburg's, this would not sit well with you. We should only be held to our own realities. And so I encourage you to consider ways to cite your research and data in the future when you're making these claims, and help the public understand the facts behind your claims, especially as they relate to our local context right here in Gettysburg. GASD and VITA are interdependent and very connected. We can and should work collaboratively in the best interest of the students and the communities that we serve. As I said, we actually currently enroll about 100 students who live in your district and who will eventually transition into your secondary schools. VITA is providing an incredibly rich and rigorous program in 2 languages and capitalizing on the strengths and the diversity that our students bring. We are collectively, you are and we are, invested in these children and their education and their well-being. Furthermore, you serve as one of our authorizing districts. And GASD is also our landlord. We are neighbors. We have opportunities to collaborate, to share resources that could have exponential impact. But this will require us to act differently and to work more as a team and less as adversaries. I invite you to call me anytime or email and come and check us out. Schedule a tour. I would be happy to meet with you at your convenience to discuss the potential that exists for our collaboration. We're not going away, and I look forward to continuing to work with you and our communities together in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christine. And I'll take personal responsibility for some of those remarks, and I still stand by those, and I'd be happy to talk to you after the meeting if you'd like to learn a little bit more. Thank you. Our next guest is Diana Olvera.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Diana. I live within the community. Actually went through all of the Gettysburg grade system here. But I wanted to come to this meeting to kind of inform myself after reading that article that was published in the Gettysburg Times about the charter school reform, and I wanted to get myself more informed of the process after reading the article, because I just had some questions, but because I am a parent of a child that goes to VITA, this is her first year attending, it says that there was a flawed charter school funding system, and then maybe the taxpayers are overpaying, so I know very little about it, so that's why I came here to inform myself. It said public schools are being overcharged for services of charter school. It's also said about advertising budgets for these charter schools. I think VITA spent like around $1,200 for that, but and it just said something about kind of a negative view on charter schools and wanting to get kids back into public schools. But I do plan to, because VITA charter school goes up to 6th grade, I do plan to transition my child into public schools, and that's not an issue for me or concern. But it also talked about having holding children accountable for behaviors, which it seemed like kids in charter schools aren't. So it said a lot of broad statements, and so I just came to the meeting just to kind of hear more information. But as a parent of someone who goes to a charter school, and it being a bilingual school where I grew up in a Spanish-speaking home, so I learned English at school, she's been more confident in speaking Spanish in public, so I think it's a good skill to have, and I'm glad that she's learning 2 languages while she's in school. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana. And back to you, President Hassinger.
Moving on to our agenda, routine approvals, 5.1 through 5.4. May I have a motion?
No.
Second. Question? Hearing no question, roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Bill?
Al?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6.1, under items for board action, is Adams County Technical Institute operating budget. I know that we had Eckenrode, Sean Eckenrode didn't speak, and I know Jeremy, who represents the board, has spoke before about that. So may I have a motion on 6.1?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Question on 6.1? Hearing no question. Roll call. Ryan?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes?
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Mr. President, are these all gonna be separate?
Yeah, items for board action are separate. Routine are together unless separated. 6.2 draft sale agreement. Motion, please.
Motion. Second.
Question? Roll call. Amy Beth?
Yes?
Tim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6.3 Policy 405, Employment of Substitute and Homebound Professional Employees. Motion, please.
So moved?
Second.
Question? Roll call. Tim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes?
Ryan?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6.4 Overtime, Policy 503, Overtime. Motion, please.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Question?
Actually, I have a question. When we were looking at this, there was 5:30 and then there was administrative 5:30. Is that the same thing?
The policy and guidelines.
Okay.
Guidelines don't approve, the policy does.
Okay, just making sure that what we had talked about is this.
Any additional questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. Roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes?
Tim?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes?
Al?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to have, 6.5 and 6.6, if we go back to the policy committee to get clarification.
There's a motion on the floor to move 6.5, Policy 237, Electronic Devices, Policy 6.6, Policy 815, Responsible Use of Electronic Resources, Email, and the Gettysburg Area School District Network on the floor to move it back to Policy Committee for further clarification in its wording.
May I second that?
Amy Beth seconds it. Question on the floor. Just for clarification, because I feel it needs that. The motion, I believe, is going back to ensure that the administration, along with the board and through Mike's policy, has the language that they want to adopt and present to the board for another reading. There may or may not have been, I don't want to call it an argument on the words, but a misunderstanding of a word or two here and there. And we have and Mike recognized that having a policy of this magnitude, the board and policy committee wants to ensure that we get it right the first time. Am I correct, Mike?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And since this policy wasn't slated to go into effect until next school year, we just wanted to make sure that we were all 100% on the same page and in agreement, and that we do it right the first time.
I just wanted to add something really positive for the community to know is that many of us went and have been diligently going to the policy committee, even if we're not on it. This is something that we just want to get right. So if we just have a little bit more time to do those few tweaks, we've come really far with this. We should mention that.
I would agree, and I think that too with school visits, where we were able to do observations as board members and see, because obviously we're not in school on a daily basis, and really the driving force here is the policy committee chaired by Mike, and Amy Beth is correct. It's had an extremely enormous board support in its meetings to ensure that there's equal representation across the board, and we do what's right for everybody as a whole. And thank you to everybody, Mike, especially you, having to work through this. So the motion's on the floor. May I have do I have a second? No. Second. Thank you. Amy Beth, do I have a question? Any further questions? I'm going to go right to roll call. Ryan?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes?
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes. action this evening. That concludes it. I'm going to turn the mic over for our informational items. It's 7.1, 2022-23 budget information. And I'm not sure if that's going to be Jason or Linda this evening.
Sure. Linda will share just a couple. There are four total slides, I believe. Unless you added a bunch.
No.
Okay.
Oh, no.
So it's four.
And this
Four.
presentation will also be available on the website tomorrow, of course, so it'll be, and as always, if anybody has any questions or maybe ought to reach out to me.
Linda, is your mic on? Because you're very low in volume there. Oh, okay.
It is on.
Well, that's better.
Okay, so our preliminary revenue, this evening, we were going to present, just to show you exactly where we're at in terms of the local, state, and federal sources of revenue. The middle column, there's three areas at the top of this worksheet, and so the first one, the draft preliminary budget, includes, as it is at the moment, a 0% increase. It brings our local revenue into just about $45 million, with the state sources about $19 million, and the federal sources about $978. I'd just like to mention that this budget is, again, as we stated the first presentation, is without ESSER dollars. So you'll see a slight bit change to the 21-22 budget numbers compared to what is posted on the website, simply because we've removed ESSER from those dollars. So it's an apple-to-apple comparison without considering ESSER at all. The other source of category is just for sale of assets that we typically will transpire during the year. Overall, our revenues that we're presenting with this budget following expenditures is $66.3 million. And of course, the additional columns that are listed there, just as a point of information, the value of the mill is listed at the very top. The value of the mill is also listed if in the event that we were to consider a 2% or 4%. 4% is our maximum index, and all we're doing here is just basically showing you what it would look like in terms of revenue if in the event that we went either 2% or 4% or something, we obviously determine it, but as it is right now, the budget is built on 0%. This here is a preliminary expense slide, and I apologize, let me go back for just a second. One of the areas I wanted to cover with you. So our local source of revenue did go up, and in terms of what I wanted to share with you is that the reasons that the local revenue did go up automatically from the current year's budget is due to real estate as well as earned income. So real estate is obtained by, we receive assessment data from the County Assessment Office, and current information as of March, it will provide us what the assessment is on all parcels within Gettysburg. And so therefore, we take that number of information, we'll take our current millage, determine what the revenue is. So of course, if homes were sold and or put on the parcels as a particular point in time from interns to the tax parcels, it's represented in the real estate tax number. And then likewise for earned income, we adjusted that as well. State, there was no changes in state at all. Very still up in arms as to what the governor's budget is going to produce for us. So obviously this is another area that we can look at in another month's time before we need to bring the proposed final back before the board for consideration. But at this time, there is no increase in state revenue. It is status quo as we currently have budgeted for this year. And of course, federal is down compared to the prior years simply because we are taking ESSER out of this one. So federal sources consist of title dollars, Title I, II, III, and IV. And at times, there will also be some IDA money as well. But that's just a representation of our local snapshot.
I think that all three of those, Linda, are shown keeping the unassigned fund balance at the lowest.
Yes, and I'll cover that slide relatively shortly. So just wanted to provide you a quick review of the revenue. Then moving along, a review of the expenditures. And the expenditures, for the most part, I know I shared briefly the last meeting, And, you know, of course, every time we come to present to the board, we are continually looking at the budget in of itself to ensure that we are capturing any changes, any slight changes to make sure that we are reducing where we can and how we can. So overall, what you'll see on this slide is, of course, is our actual 2021, and that is in terms of our audit. And then we'll have our 21-22 budgetary column, and then our draft expenditures as for 22-23 as of this evening. So, of course, our salary and wages rose 2.3%. This considers all contracts in place and adjusts for the salaries thereof. Benefits, of course, overall, in summary, it raised 5%. However, the largest driving forces of the benefits is healthcare cost. Our premiums have gone up from one year to the next to about 8%, as well as PSERS makes up the largest category of the benefits. Our other purchase of services is down slightly. This is typically services provided by the LIU and other sourcing agencies. Our supply category, of course, is, our other purchase of services. This is typically our facilities for the 400 category, up slightly. Some utilities are in this category as well as in the supply category. The largest area that increased, and I know we've shared this previously, the 500 categories, other purchase of services, and this is all transportation costs for the district as well as charter costs. Previously, our slide, we had charter costs of upwards of $5 million. We brought it down about $500,000, so we're basically going to move forward with assuming a risk of about $500,000 of unassigned fund balance, just once our actual expenditures are known. But we took the risk of reducing that. Our transportation is currently in negotiations with our contract, and so therefore the increase from one year to the next constitutes both the charter as well as transportation. The supply category is up 10.7%. This equates to general supplies, mostly in the area of our athletic supplies is increasing for next year simply because we no longer have an athletic booster club. So there were many supplies that the athletic booster helped support the organization, and so therefore with the dissolution on the table for the athletic booster, the athletic budget did have to pick up additional supplies. Not only did the athletic budget need to do that, but we also have additional supplies outside of athletics, but more in terms of the informational technology with hardware, software, and just the increase overall in some of those costs for hardware, software, and ongoing support needed for the programs that the district is running. In also the 600 category, we have electricity, gas, and some utilities as well. And of course, those contracts we currently joint procure those contracts with Lincoln Intermediate and 12. And so we're looking at those contracts at the particular point in time. So overall, the supplies is just not the category of general supplies, which you see in every day in the classroom. It'll constitute informational technology, it'll constitute books, textbooks, which of course the category for textbooks is not increasing, but however, just in general, when we think of supplies, it's more broader, not very focused in terms of just your everyday supplies that we do purchase. Let's see, the other objects increased only simply because we took out ESSER in the 21-22 category. So if we're comparing one column one year to the next, you're going to have a change from year to year comparison simply because we're taking out ESSER dollars in the expenditures of the prior year to make it more reflective of the current year. So overall, currently where we stand, our expenses at this particular point in time is $71.7 million. Now, how will we address that? So keep it very simplified and hopefully easy understanding discussion. So we start with our fund balance. What is fund balance? Fund balance is the money that's left over to handle operations until your tax revenues flow in. So for example, if we are looking at 6% fund balance of $71 million, it would be $4,304,000, which is listed at the very bottom. $4 million is approximately about a month's worth of expenditures that the district will pay out. So of course, fund balance in some very simplified terms is really your checking account balance after everything is brought in and paid out for a particular month, so to speak. This is what fund balance is representing. So in order to do this exercise, we start with a fund balance that we know is accurate. So as of June 30th, 2021, at a particular point in time, our fund balance was $6.8 million. Listed in the audit, it's what we're starting with. So if we take a look and add our proposed revenue, which was this revenue slide before, and also a portion of PSERS funds that we commit towards our revenue to help with that advancing cost in PSERS, we'll have overall revenue of $66.3 million. And our expenditures, of course, is $71.7 million. So the net of those two is a deficit of $5,423,540. However, our policy states that we do have, we want to maintain a 6% fund balance. And it is always a factor of the expenditures. So in this instance, the 6% would be the $4 million. So in other words, we could take $6 million, and the difference between $6 million and $4 million, of course, is $2,382,284, which we can allow to use towards balancing this budget, if you're following me. So then, in other words, where do we come up with the $3 million difference between the deficit? And so therefore, our only options, again, is we will look towards revenue. We will look towards the assessment data to see what's changing within another month's time, to see if we can project a little bit closer. We're going to look specifically at specific townships to see what's changing in terms of Strabane or any other township that we have, as well as we're going to try to fine-tune some of our expenditures. The expenditures are pretty much already down to what we feel is fair and reasonable. The previous year, we cut almost $1 million worth of expenditures out, which is already out. We didn't just add that back in for this processing round. And so therefore, if anything is going to be gained in this budget, it would be revenue. And hopefully we will get a better picture in another month's time, maybe what the state is doing, as well as to local our earned income, as well as our real estate taxes that we can bring this up. At the most, we may be able to reduce expenditures about $250,000 to $500,000, but we got a long way to get to the $3 million mark to balance the budget if we want to retain 6% fund balance. And so, with that being said, our next, as I said, we tried to keep this short and sweet. So our next level, April 18th, we're going to be bringing back some more information and update the board once again to see where we're at before making some recommendations. We would like to recommend to adopt the proposed file on May 2nd. So we're hoping within the next two weeks and another month that at least that we have some more information that we can come back to whittle down that $3 million mark. Any questions?
Timeline, Belinda, we need to approve a preliminary budget by the second meeting in May, am I correct? Before that?
First meeting in May.
First meeting in May.
First meeting in May is we recommend to approve that it sits advertised for a certain period of time. We may have a public hearing at our public board meeting on May 16th. And then, of course, we'd like to move to adopt a budget June 6th.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Board committee reports?
President, next policy committee meeting will be April 12th at 4 p.m. here in the administration building.
Jason?
Just a couple spring calendar dates, just a reminder, April 15th and 18th, students are off, spring break. May 6th, early dismissal for professional development, secondaries, noon, elementaries 1, and commencement May 27th. So, spring.
Let me look at the calendar here. Okay. Our next school board meeting, if you take note, is April 19th. It's a Tuesday. Again, here at the administrative building. Does anybody have anything I want to mention here before? A motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I was just going to make one final quick remark since our guests of Diana and Christine took their time to come out this evening, and while Alex is here, I do want to clarify that I do believe Vida Charter School is an exception to the vast majority of charter schools that are grossly overcharging us. Vida Charter School has a mission of dual immersion, which is the practice of dual immersion and offering an instructional delivery that's over and beyond what the local public schools can offer. That is the intent and the spirit behind charter schools. Vida Charter School meets that intent, in my opinion. So this board has supported Vida Charter School in the past, and I suspect they'll continue to support in the future, as have I. But I do stand by my remarks that I do believe that the vast majority of charter schools that are out there, and especially the cyber charter schools, continue to grossly overcharge us for their services. And I'm glad this board approved a unanimous resolution to add that to 420 other school districts in the state of Pennsylvania. And once again, I thank you for your support. Christine and Diana, I thank you for coming tonight, and I do want to clarify that. And I publicly apologize that you all get pulled in with this as a general statement, but you are the exception, and you all are doing things the right way. Thank you.
Prior to adjournment, we have executive session may follow, so I would ask the board members just to remain seated while people leave. I'm going to have a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make that motion.
We stand adjourned.